Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Influential Oregonian, where we have discussions on Oregon history and academics and interview important people who have made history within or in the name of the Beaver State. I'm your host, Marcus Axford from the show Welcome to Oregon, joined by my boon companions, archaeologist and Marquist of Salem, David Winkler, and Finn J.D. John of Offbeat Oregon and Baron of Corvallis. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you, Marcus.
Great to be here.
Yes, and this week we are back on track with our guest interviews with Gus Frederick, a Silverton historian who specializes in the story of Homer Davenport, as well as many other things. Gus, welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yay! Another fellow colleague in our social circle. This is just going to become Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, where he brings in everybody from SNL. So, before we get into the formal interview, it's been a couple weeks. We had 4th of July in between. So we've had a lot of stuff happen. I've had a lot of stuff happen anyway. Because like you might notice that I still don't have another episode of Welcome to Oregon up, and I apologize. I'm kind of at a point where I kind of really just want to take my time with that show. Kind of. Well, it also doesn't help that I am working in a hot box. I'm sure when we eventually move, I can make things a little bit more accommodatable, and have central heating and air and all that good stuff. But for now, it's kind of hard to do work when the only time I have is in the evenings, and it's sweltering in here even by like 10, 11 o'clock at night. So I try to do things in the morning, but I have to be at work by 7 o'clock in the morning. So it's a little difficult.
Uh,
So for now, WTO releases are going to be a little slow, at least for now, which is fine because I like being able to take the time now because like I've got 50 episodes. You know, I we've got a whole network of stuff you guys can listen to. You have this show, you have Finn's shows, and we also have I have to update everything, of course, first, but we do have a brand new show that I'm happy to announce that is going to be hitting the network, and it's the Exploragonians.
oh yeah. Oh,
Ooh, I
nice.
like it. Nice
Yeah,
name.
So
I
Jordan and Katie wanted to make common cause.
Yes, they did.
Most excellent.
Yeah, Jordan did all the things of like, do we need to sign a contract? Do we have full editorial? I'm like, this is a resource sharing network. You just have to pay $1,000 to me a month. That's all. Um,
So
And that's
easy.
just protection.
that's just that's just the insurance cost. Um, but no, I told them that, I mean, there's probably going to be some things where it's like I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I'm sure there's going to be a point where something's gonna, be asked of, but for the most part, it's like no, we're here to share each other's work, to promote people, to make sure everybody's names and projects are getting out there. I always say, do I want this network to make money? Absolutely. All of our volunteers, whether they're part of the core network or outside of it, everybody, each and every one of you does a lot of hard work, and I'd like to see people get compensated for that hard work. So that's, my goal is to eventually get there, but we're not there yet. So yeah, I told them for because of my busy schedule, it's a slow process, but get the website updated. Actually, that reminds me, I need to look into Wix support had emailed me saying that the website got blacklisted for
Oh,
redirecting people to malware related stuff or whatever, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's a legitimate email or what. So it's something I have one more thing I that takes in my schedule to look into. So, but no, we are very excited to invite Jordan and Katie into the family. So you'll start seeing updates for their shows coming online here in the near future. And if you're wondering, I'm excited because it is something that is much different from what we already have. We have a travel show now. So, and like all of our other shows, theirs is also evolving. These appear to have only started back in October, and I've admittedly only listened to their first episode, but it was enough to convince me that, well, not to mention Finn's glorious testimonials on Jordan as a person. So between the two, I
One of my earliest students.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, great guy to talk to. Oh my God. I love when people actually talk and have a conversation. Give me 2 paragraph long messages. I don't care. So yeah, their first episode, they kind of talk about their relationship and basically how they got to this point. And it was really enjoyable listening to them both. So, they kind of bounce between international travel stories and stories here at home.
This
So,
is Buster. He's the one who brought the rabbit up into my office. Oh, he's such a bad dog. That's why he's wearing those bells. If you hear it sounds like Santa Claus is coming to town in my office, it's because Buster's come upstairs.
gonna say we definitely heard that a few
You
times.
mean that's not Santa?
No,
Why
I,
do you gotta kill my joy, Finn?
I had to get these super loud bells on because otherwise he'd have all the bunnies and squirrels and everything cleared out of our yard. And anyway,
Mm.
Yeah, I think the story you just shared about the incident with the squirrel is more horrifying than any serial killer story I've ever covered.
it was traumatic. It was really terrible. Poor little bunny. But anyway,
But yeah,
on that note,
so yeah, they're talking about maybe focusing their show down more to here at home. So, but whatever direction they want to take their show, I'm here for it, and I want to make sure we're supporting them as best we can, as is our duty as network founders and leads and all that good stuff. So, I think that's it for the show and then I just have one more thing where I've started getting more involved in Dallas City. Well, maybe I get. Well, yeah, we'll call it politics. Because if you're from Dallas or ever been to Dallas, you know about the mill site. There's a lot of things around this city that I would love to see improved, but right now everybody's attention is towards that mill, or where the mill used to be. And if you haven't seen it, it is a massive plot of land. It's like I think 30 acres, I think the thing said or whatever. Maybe not quite that big. I don't know, but maybe no, it's got to be. It's massive. Um, so I had this idea where this is a perfect opportunity to blend history with modernization
Hmm.
and also commerce. I think it'd be really cool to see something. I think one of my original ideas was something like a McMiniman style place where you have this restaurant that talks about history, especially the local history. Put in a really cool shopping center that has the aesthetic of an old logging industry instead of just a plain old brick building. And other stuff has come up too. Something that Dallas has lost is the drive-in. They lost that a long time ago. And I said, well, why can't we just build another one? It's got to be cheaper than an actual indoor theater. So that's something that might get looked at. So, not entirely sure how much I'm allowed to talk about, but these are my personal thoughts, feelings, and ideas. So I've gotten involved in with the Chamber of Commerce and slowly making like I don't have anything else to do, right? So, but there's things that I look at that I go, I want to at least try to see if I can have a hand in taking advantage of this great opportunity. So. Anyway,
And this is where Marcus announces his campaign for mayor.
no, what's funny is I talked to Jess and I said, "Is it bad I want to run for mayor just to see if I'd win?" And she looked at me and she said, "The annoying thing is you probably would win, and then I have to deal with it."
well, that's the thing about being mayor of something like Dallas is that you don't get any money for it, so it's only available to gentlemen and ladies of leisure.
Mhm.
Well,
But it
that
does rub your nose in civic responsibility.
Mhm.
As
Yeah.
someone who served 5 years on the Silverton City Council as well as 8 years on the Planning Commission, believe me,
Wow, yeah. Well, yeah, and the mayor doesn't have well, like with anything, the person who's at the forefront actually has less power than the people, backing them. And it's the same as, the mayor doesn't have quite the power that people think. It's the council, it's the um oh God, city planner. It's those people that have more of the power. So
Hmm.
And this is where we announce a Marcusocracy. It's a new
There.
form of government specifically for Dallas.
I'm not gonna say make Dallas something, but make Dallas something.
Make Dallas historical again.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, it might sound a flake egotistical, but it's a matter of putting taking your perspective and applying it. And again, it's something I look at and go, I would really hate for them to screw up on this perfect opportunity because once they develop it, then that's it. There's nothing you can do. So let's develop it the right way. Let's see how much history we can pour into this and make it this really cool draw for not just Dallas, but people outside of Dallas as well. So
I
it's
think you
exciting.
guys should switch back to calling the town Cyprian.
I thought like, hey, maybe we could rename the town too, because a lot of people are also like, oh, Dallas, Texas? No, no, Dallas, Oregon.
On the other hand, you guys, I mean, you could get a DC-9 if it could fly out of the local airport, and you could play the Flatlanders and do tours. Did you ever see Dallas from a DC-9 at night? Yeah, that one right down there. You can really
Yeah.
kind of see it.
There you go.
There's one street light you can kind of see from up there.
Dallas
we-
is a great town.
Yeah, I
we
love
get
Dallas.
confused with Colorado ourselves.
Yes.
Oh, Silverton,
well,
Colorado. I know
As
all
a
about.
Colorado boy, that was my first thought.
There you go.
It's like, where am I?
And the train, the Durango train.
Yeah, well, Corvallis has got an analog in Montana, but I'm not sure that we get mixed up with them so much as they get mixed up with us. But anyway, it's tough all over, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think that's it. I'm sure, more updates. I mean, it's been 2 weeks, so I'm dumping everything I can in quick succession. So, so yeah, well, more updates on everything next week, I'm sure. Because I had a city meeting last Wednesday, and then this Wednesday, I have another one to kind of go forward with things. So it's exciting. I hope to actually do some good.
Oh,
So, David, has there been anything interesting on your end aside from the fact that you're back in the D&D group? Welcome back.
thank you very much. Oh, there's so much, and none of it that I can really talk about. Except I did take pilgrimage down to the land of our dear Baron yesterday, for an end of week co-worker get together. And I was really struck. I mean, it's no secret the company I work for is SWCA. It's started out as an environmental thing, but it has an archaeological component like most environmental companies do. Um, but most of my coworkers are all from OSU, and I've never interacted with archaeologists from OSU. And so this was kind of a treat. I mean, I'm very new to this whole world. And so everyone I've interacted with has mostly been from Portland State, a handful from U of O. But my supervisor and my two coworkers both worked really closely with Dr. Lauren Davis, who has been studying the Cooper's Ferry site. And my supervisor actually did her Oregon State certification thesis project on like this particular pit at Cooper's Ferry. It goes back. It's so far it is the oldest site in North America, Cooper's Ferry. I was under the impression it was Rimrock Draw, but until Pat O'Grady publishes that paper, which, like George R. Martin, it's a little up in the air. But what my supervisor found is like it started out this little pit as like a little garbage dump. So like you find little food scraps in there, you find what we call debitage, which is the when you're making a stone tool, the debitage is what pops off during the tool making process. So it's like the stone tool equivalent of a metal shaving. But as time goes on, people are laying like whole projectile points in there. And it's like these things that you would think are so useful that somebody wouldn't necessarily throw away. And at the highest layer, there is a layer of projectile points with like it's some kind of canid skull like laying on top of it.
Hmm.
And the pit was capped with a basalt stone.
Hmm.
So it's this really, really unusual little thing. And so that was my week. I got to hear all about Cooper's Ferry.
And can you tell me the character of the canine that
Unfortunately,
Wasn't Buster.
yeah,
He was a
no.
good boy.
Yeah, he was a very good boy, is what it seems like.
That's going to
David,
be a fun.
I need to put you in contact with one of my former students, is Hayden Wilcox, who works, I
Okay.
think he works for KPTV now.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
He did his capstone project under my direction on that dig with Dr. Lauren.
Yeah. And so yeah, it
You
was
guys would have
just
a lot to talk about.
yeah, absolutely. And so what Kirsten, my supervisor, was telling me about this is we can't tell what kind of canid it is because it's missing this part of the jaw. And if
Oh,
you know anything about canid anatomy, this right here is going to tell you whether it's a wild dog, a domesticated dog, a coyote, a wolf. And because this is missing, there's just no way to tell. And so the like meta theory is this could have been a very good boy being honored, or it could have been like a particularly, skillful kill that somebody made. Or
I love
maybe it was even an offering for a good hunt.
I love when I give you a hard time and it actually leads to something uh very genuine and useful. This
Yeah.
is gonna be my new running theme where I give you a hard time. Now I know you're an archaeologist, sir, but can you tell me in depth the character? Was this a good thing or bad thing? I'm just
Yeah.
gonna turn my embarrassments into insults to everyone else. Uh, well, speaking of colleagues, people you worked with, the other Finn I actually got to
Yes.
talk
Fin
about.
break.
Yep, I meant to say this in my segment, so I'm going to intrude on yours because you're going to love to hear this.
Yeah.
I'm probably actually going to get to sit down and have lunch with him.
That
Uh,
would be lovely.
because the wife and I are going down south for our 10-year anniversary. She really was
Hmm.
wanting to see the Oregon redwoods.
Yeah.
So, we got a yurt at Bullard's Beach. We're going to go down through
Nice.
Bandon and go down there and then just kind of peruse our way down the bottom. And I'm so excited because it's mining country and Oregon
Hmm.
mining is something that I have been fascinated with and I haven't really gotten the chance to really experience because I mean, it's 5 hours away.
That was my whole field school was Oregon mining.
You're
So that
lucky.
was how I got trained was with Chelsea Rose and the Southern Oregon crew.
Yep. So I plan to, and yes, the wife has agreed. Nobody, oh, you're going to make this a work thing on your 10-year anniversary. No.
Jess is the most patient woman I've ever heard of.
I mean, I'll be honest. I'll be honest right now. Like I keep telling her, without you, none of this would exist. You were the one who pushed me to do this, which makes the dominoes fall. You're the whole reason all of us are doing this because you're the one who said, "Why don't you just write about history? You're good at
Yeah.
it. You know how to do it." So I always make sure she knows every single day. And I'm
Mhm.
saying it on the
This
record
is
right
your
now.
fault.
This is
Yeah.
your
All your fault.
You're why we're like this. So you're gonna meet Finn. That's gonna be awesome.
yes.
Oh,
So I
he's
didn't
a good guy. He's
I
got
didn't
cool stories.
I didn't want to butt in, but I just remembered that I'm like, oh shoot, I got to say it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Right
that's
on.
yeah, that's all I had. So we will see if any more stories come out.
Awesome. That's great. Finn?
Cool. Yeah, I've been really kind of inspired with the Penny Dreadful thing, which I have been renaming basically on a weekly basis. But I've been working on that all this week, and I've decided that it is now going to be called the Penny Dreadful Variety Hour because it is. I found enough additional elements that I can bring into it to make it actually a variety show. If I had a house band, that would be ideal, but I don't have that right now, so I'm forced to just do lyrics of barely safe for work Victorian drinking and carousing and sinning songs.
We'll have John get on that.
Yeah, I found a huge collection of bawdy songbooks, which I've got coming now, and I've also found a few of them, so I've been able to kick that off. And also I found this wonderful old scandal sheet called the Terrific Register, which is like a true crime magazine, very pulpy, very bloody. Charles Dickens himself blurbed it in one of his writings. He mentioned that when he was a small child, it frightened him out of his wits, which was a great deal because it was a penny an issue. So I've been basically packing these things into it and organizing the schedule so that it's easy to slot stuff into it to get it to come out to 58 minutes length with a break in the middle, so that if I want to approach a radio station with it, I might be able to offer them something. So that's been going on. And I've been working real hard on my wife's house in Silverton, which she really wants to get done this summer because, of course, I teach, so I get neither money nor work. In the summer, I'm an unallocated resource. Yeah, that's basically it in Finland.
Ah.
Cute.
Oh, another thing, too. By the time the next episode comes around, I should be looking a little less fresh from the Ozarks than I am now. But unfortunately, I have a less than winning smile at present.
I love your
That
hockey
missing
smile.
tooth
I can
there.
rate, yeah.
I
Anyways,
love your hockey smile.
You know what you
Hockey
should just do?
I like that.
smile. I like hockey smile better than Ozark smile, but
Yeah.
anyway, that should be fixed by next time.
You should have Natalie just do black eye makeup and just walk around with blue. Hey guys,
Look like an enforcer for the
The
Toronto
Sven
Maple Leafs.
look.
Yeah, I love Sven Gulli.
That's great.
Alrighty, guys. Well, we are 22 minutes in. I get, to be fair, it's been 2 weeks, so there's been plenty to talk about. And Gus here's been a really great sport and also chiming in, which I always love. So, time to shift the focus, speaking of which, on to Mr. Frederick here. Okay, so the question I always love to ask every guest at the top of the interview is, are you a native Oregonian? And if not, where did your journey begin and how did it lead you here?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not a native Silvertonian. My dirty little secret is I was born in Salem.
Oh,
So yeah. Oh my God.
So was
Yeah.
I!
But I was
I think all
dragged.
of us were born
we
in Salem, actually.
I was
grew,
not.
grew up in
Oh,
Beaver
Yes,
State.
I did, was not.
And if everyone knows, the only difference between Beaverton and Silverton is the first three letters.
Yep.
But I was dragged kicking and screaming in my senior year of high school from Beaverton High, where I was nominated to be on the school paper, to Silverton, this podunk community where I got down here and, oh my God, and then they're basically begging, oh, you got to be on the paper. You would love to be on, quite a difference. It was, and amazingly enough, our original Fox's Howl was the name of our paper group. Pretty much all of them are still friends of mine on Facebook and in real life as well. So be that as it may, that was 52 years ago. I'm still here, except for 4 years off for good behavior, working for my rich Uncle Sam in the United States Navy, which was an experience itself. Actually, it was an adventure, just like the old ads used to say. Not just a job, it's an adventure. Yeah, so it took 13 months in Iceland,
Ooh.
and a cruise to Africa and South America, another cruise into the Great Lawrence Seaway, St. Lawrence Seaway, where he visited such exotic ports of call as Cleveland and Toledo, And Quebec City was quite nice, and Toronto, of course. But anyway, here I am now, working on a numerous different projects of a historical and hysterical outlook. Um, I one of my current position is president of the Silverton Country Historical Society, and that and $5 will get you half a cup of coffee. Uh, but we're a fun group.
Is
So
Jeff Breckus
Gus,
still involved with the Hysterical
Not
Society?
really. He moved back to town. He had moved to California for a while, moved back to town, sold his house, bought another house, and now he lives in South Salem.
Oh,
Um,
mm.
okay.
so he's not really directly involved except for some of our events and whatnot. He shows up.
So Gus, what was that moment for you of like history is the thing for you? Like I remember for me, it was like specifically knights and samurai, and that was like
Oh,
the
there you go.
thing that I deep dove in on as a kid. That sort of developed my history interest. Was there a moment like that for you?
There was actually. Um, when we still lived in Beaverton, I was really getting into cartooning,
Oh,
doing my own cartoons and things of that nature. And then when I ended up in Silverton, I one of the first things I learned about was Homer Davenport, who was
that's
a
right.
political cartoonist for 20 years. I had never heard of the guy before, and I started looking at his work. I'm going, how come I never heard of this guy before? It was quite amazing. Also, that year that I moved was the year that they released Homer's autobiography, The Country Boy, which he had illustrated as well. And so I read through that, and it just really blew me away.
Hmm.
Then my then girlfriend at the time, well, actually, she's still my girlfriend, Melria Estel. I think Finn knows her, and her father was a big historian kind of guy, and he had Davenport's first collection of cartoons that were in the New York Evening Journal, in from basically from 1895 to 18 or 97, which is when the book came out. Basically, it's like a coffee table book, big format, 17 by 14 inches. And I was looking at this thing, and it was just the cartoons and their captions. And I got to thinking, boy, this would be really cool to have an annotated version of this
Yeah.
that described who all these people are, what these issues are. And then fast forward 20 years from that date, and I finally accomplished that goal. And that was kind of fun.
I've
So
got a copy of that. I wish I had thought to get it out so I could wave it around.
oh yeah, well,
Just as a fun
I got a
side
number
note,
of copies. I should have brought them out here, but I'd have to
as,
break the
as,
connection.
as a
But
fun
anyway,
side note, I was today years old when I learned how to actually pronounce Melrea's name.
oh, there you go.
I I had always in because I've never actually met her in person. I've just been Facebook friends
Oh
basically. I
yeah,
always thought it was Milray Estelle, but
yeah.
now I will not embarrass
Maria
myself.
Estel.
Yes,
I just call her Ria myself, but it's
right on.
kind of short thing. So anyway, getting that also the publication of that book, because I'm a graphic artist by profession,
Yeah.
filmmaker as well, so I have all the tools, Adobe Suite, blah blah blah, and
Hired.
easy process. At the time, I laid the thing out in PageMaker 7, which I at that time became very fluent in, and uh, one of the things that I liked most about that project was it also kind of gave me the first time to actually do a Kickstarter campaign.
Mm.
Hmm.
We had done a limited edition version of the annotated cartoons initially. My next door neighbor, who ran the print shop at the time, printed it up, and I had a little perfect bind machine that I got at the Goodwill for $5, and we bound them all up, made it, maybe 100 copies or so. But I said, about this time, I heard about um, Portland State's Odin ink process,
Hmm.
which was a print on demand service that they did. And I looked into that and decided I'm going to go ahead and do this, get it all professionally bound. Went and got ISBN number, Library of Congress, control number, and all that stuff, and then started this Kickstarter campaign to get the thing 200 copies professionally done, and that was a success, and it was great. After that, I had set my sights on Davenport's second book of cartoons called The Dollar or the Man, The Question of Today, yeah, T-O hyphen day, which is interesting because the first book was, about 74, 75 cartoons. This one was only 50 some cartoons, and they all related to the corporate excess type stuff. This is where Davenport introduced the trust brute, which is kind of this personification of the corporate largesse, if you will. And he had this big burly guy with kind of a Moses beard and the grass skirt, and they, depending on which trust was talked about, he had the sugar trust or the oil trust, Standard Oil Trust, and all these other things like that. And these cartoons are incredible. So I seem to do these when I get laid off and have time on my hands. So I did another book, the annotated version of The Dollar of the Man, and that one's out as well. Now, what was interesting about all this was once I started getting into Homer, I started finding out about his father, Timothy Woodbridge Davenport, who is affectionately known as the Sage of Silverton. Now, this guy was incredible, because I always kind of wondered where the Sage of Silverton came from. One day I was during lunch when I was employed still. I was at the book bin in Salem, and they have this top shelf of the Oregon history section, which was all OHQ, Oregon Historical Quarterlies. And I'm digging through those, and I find one from 1907, and the title was "The Slavery Question in Oregon, Part 2 by T.W. Davenport." And I'm going, what in the heck is this? So I bought that right away and read it, and it was basically him recounting how he and his father and other family members were very instrumental in the formation of the Oregon Republican Party as moralistic abolitionists. The Davenport family came to Silverton in 1852, and T.W. ended up marrying Homer's mother, Florinda Gear, from the Gear family. They came in 1847. The father was Ralph Gear, and her mother was Mary Gear. Gearcrest Farm is still active to this day as a Century Farm, and I'm very involved with them. Most notably, Ralph Gear was an orchardist and brought across the plains on the Oregon Trail a number of seeds and plantings of fruit trees, and was very instrumental in the Oregon fruit process. With another guy by the name of Llewellyn. I forgot his first name.
No, not Seth. Henderson.
Henderson.
Yeah.
So anyway, a lot of these trees, especially the pear trees, are still fruiting. So I am also a home brewer, and took it upon myself to explore the wonders of Perry. Turned out that Ralph Gear supposedly won awards for his Perry at the state fair. For those that don't know, Perry is the equivalent of cider, but made only from pears. And so I started making Perry for some of the Gearcrest farm fresh dinners and things of that nature. But anyway, that's kind of a sidetrack from TW. Getting back to TW, as a member of the Oregon Historical Society, I went up there and looking through their catalog of all the different Oregon Historical Quarterlies, turns out in the basement they still had all of the originals. You could still buy them at the going rate, which was $6 an issue for me as a member. And so I looked up everything TW did, and it was quite impressive, frankly. He had a 4-parter called Recollections of an Indian Agent, recounting his experiences with the First Nations, including being appointed temporary Indian agent at the Umatilla Agency, and frankly, a very heartbreaking story. All 4 chapters of that. And again, part 1 to include with part 2, the slavery question in Oregon as well. So what I did is, since I had all these original copies, scanned them in, using the wonders of optical character recognition, converted all those texts into editable, machine readable, or whatever Word files, basically, and then from there into InDesign and put together TW, the collected works, uh, properly indexed, of course, added a number of different sources, added some relevant photographs from our collection at the museum, and one of my favorite books that I put together, frankly, uh, the collection, the complete collection. I want to update that because I've since then found some other um, stuff that TW wrote, most notably his handwritten memoir that he wrote after his wife died of smallpox in the 1870. He was the whole family was quarantined in the Waldo Hills and couldn't go anywhere. So he took it upon himself to write his history of his early experiences before they came to Oregon and during that journey across the plains and everything like that as well. And I want to, do a similar treatment to that, as well as some references that the old, boy, I can't even remember his name. Oregonian used to have a guy on staff that actually did history columns. And I got in contact with him, and he knew all about TW and sent some references that he had in the thing. So I'm going to incorporate some of that in there as well. So anyway, the Davenport family, very, very fascinating. And of course, Homer was not just the cartoonist, he was also an importer and breeder of Arabian horses, had quite a few heavy hitter friends, most notable, of course, TR, Teddy Roosevelt, um, and Albert Spalding, the sporting goods magnate, who hired him to illustrate his book on the history of baseball, according to Spalding, uh, with 12 original illustrations in that as well. And quite impressive, So I started looking into some of the connections between that, and there were a couple of biographies of Homer that came out. One that came out in the early '70s by Houghton Leland, and it's very a sad book. It was obviously started when these gentlemen were still active, and kind of you could almost see their decline. The graphics are horrible. It's not indexed at all, lacking references. So I thought it'd be great to redo that as well. And then, dear Mickey Hickman, friend of mine that I met down here, he came out with an autobiography of Homer as well, which is more of an autobiography of Mickey Hickman as it relates to Homer Davenport. But he had a few little nuggets in there that were very interesting. So one of which was Homer's girlfriend, the mysterious Zeta, and that led me into her real name was Anne Ricord, married to an industrialist from Ohio, divorced, famous divorce case. Her alimony was $2 million, and she later got involved in one of the many nutrition cults that happened around the turn of the 20th century. This one was called the Mazdaznan Group, run by a German emigre who grew up as the son of diplomats in Persia, Iran, and basically supposedly was taught the wonders by the Sufi mystics, and then started his own cult that the press labeled the Sun Cult, although it was more of a nutrition cult. Eat whole grains, avoid meat, and send the guru money, that sort of thing.
Cold water,
and they're still in existence. I found there's a contingent of Mazdaznan people up in Canada. Anyway, Homer's girlfriend was deeply involved in that, and there was a big hado in there because her son was involved, and her ex got involved because, oh my God, I got to get my kid out of the cult.
One more
great
cult story I can
hyperbole.
add.
Great hyperbole. But one of the more cooler things that I found about Davenport's background was the fact that he was a good buddy with TR, Teddy Roosevelt, but turns out that Roosevelt's vice president was Homer's second cousin, Charles Warren Fairbanks, of
Oh
whom
God.
the Alaskan town is named for, because he helped negotiate the treaty that made that part of, whatever, during the Alaskan thing. And so I decided to explore this a little bit. So I found out that all the Fairbanks papers were in Bloomington, Indiana, at the university there. So I logged onto their site, found the finding aids, and noted 4 letters from Homer Davenport to Vice President Fairbanks. It was
Nice.
quite interesting. One of the letters was talking about, he would uh, Fairbanks had asked him, "Who should I hire as a portrait artist for my official portrait as vice president?" And so Homer says, "Oh, you could try my good friend," and he rattles off the name of the guy that did the Mount Rushmore, Beauregard, or I forgot how to pronounce his name. And the next letter was basically thanking him and his wife for attending one of his Chalk Talk lectures, which he did quite a bit. He worked for Major, uh, what was his name? Yeah, I'll get to it in a bit. It was Major Pond. Yeah, Major James Pond, who was
Hmm.
a noted Lyceum manager, handled Mark Twain, Stanley, a number of other people, and he met Homer, and he said, "Hey, this guy's a natural." And in fact, he wrote to TW, and I saw the letter in the U of O book or library, talking about how Davenport was, Homer would be just a perfect lecturer. So that kind of launched that career, his lecture career. So, and what else?
Cool. Tell us about the Wolverine Antique Music Society too.
Oh, yeah, the Wolverine Antique
Yeah.
Music Society. Well, that was kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing that a buddy of mine, when I was still working at Associated Oregon Industries, started, because we both like 78 records. And we take, on Saturdays, go off to junk stores. Cal's was great in Portland. They had an upstairs where they had all these 78s and stuff like that. So we would buy 78s, and we kind of started this tongue-in-cheek, Wolverine Antique Music Society, and which kind of ushered me into the world of the World Wide Web. A year and a half after the web was officially, formed, I bought my very first, and I still own it, domain, shellac.org. So you want to read about WAMs,
Nice.
shellac.org, check it out. So I've got a number of little things in there. I kind of use that as my catch-all for various and sundry old pieces of music, digitize them and put them on there. I got a Stan Freberg collection. I was raised with Stan Freberg, and so he had a number of different things besides his 45s, which are kind of like Weird Al type parodies, to being hired as an advertising guy and did a lot of advertising pieces. So I got a number of those. One which is kind of interesting. He did a whole series of, I guess, station checks, what you call little short blurbs for the 1968 CBS lineup. So he was doing little promos on the different types of TV shows that were coming on. And my favorite one was trying to make light of Hogan's Heroes. And here's a comedy about World War II.
Yeah, I always thought
Oh,
that was
wow.
interesting.
Very ironic.
I loved Hogan's Heroes,
Love
but
Hogan's
Yeah, yeah.
Heroes.
as an adult now and knowing as much as I do now, I look and go, you know,
The term cringeworthy comes to mind.
Funny
Yeah,
thing is, almost everyone involved with that production was Jewish. They were
I
having
know,
a thunder
exactly.
and good time
Well,
dunking on the
LeBeau
Nazis.
had spent time in a concentration camp.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
well, I mean, maybe that was the point too, was like, we've already been through the horror.
Yeah,
Let's try
let's just
to,
exactly.
yeah, why do we need to, well, that's kind of our theme this year apparently is, always recognize the horror, but let's try to move forward towards the positive. So I think that's what they're trying to do with that.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. But
well, it was a
anyway,
great
that
show.
was good. The other little tidbit I found out doing various and sundry research thing, one of the first things I found out when I moved to town uh, was this mysterious institute known as Liberal University of Oregon.
Ah,
And I'm going,
yes.
what the heck is this all about? So I started looking into that, and turns out it was the first non-religious affiliated center of higher learning west of the Mississippi that was founded in Silverton in 1897 and finally lasted about 7 years and it petered out. They were going to move it to St. Louis, but ended up just completely folding. And so I started trying to find out more about this. Turned out that they published a weekly newspaper for 7 years, 8 pages, and it was carried and referenced, or was referenced a lot in a free thought magazine out of Chicago called Free Thought Magazine, which was basically atheist, agnostic, free thinking, because this is what they called the golden age of free thought, was the latter part of the 19th century. We had such luminaries as Robert Greene Ingersoll, who would do lectures on, not being, and the guy was incredible because he had a lot of people that came to his things, even though they were devout, they just liked his speech. And he actually visited Oregon a couple of times. During this time, there was an organization that was founded called the Oregon State Secular Union. And that was them. It was heavily staffed with a lot of people from Silverton. Turns out Silverton's major pioneers, if you will, early folks that took the town, they were all free thinkers. There were a few churches, but to this day, if you come into Silverton from either the north or the west, you'll notice these Kiwanis Club signs listing the 24 different denomination churches in town. Yeah, 24. I mean, 24. It's incredible. And that, you compare that with another community, for example, Mount Angel to the north of us, they got one. It's the Catholics.
Well, and that's very
Silverton is all over the
interesting.
map.
Yeah, to
Yeah, and
contrast with Salem, which was founded by Methodists.
well, exactly.
Hmm.
And a lot of them were attracted to Silverton because of that.
Hmm.
And by the turn of the 20th century, when LUO had already started to go and grow, it was also a period of time when there's this mass influx of immigrants that were coming into the area, primarily Scandinavians, good God-fearing folks, Lutherans, and to work in the forest and the timber industry, which started out as the big industry in Silverton. Up until then, it was primarily a market town for, center of location. The railroad came to town, and so they did a lot of the shipping of grains and whatnot, produce out from there. And then it became lumber was the big thing. So they had all these forests and started, chopping down the trees and started two big industrial strengths, if you will, timber operations, Silverton Timber Company and the Silverton Lumber. I think it was the Silverton. Oh, I forgot what it was called. Silver Falls Lumber Company. That was it. And they talk about mill areas.
Which one of those did Clark Gable work at?
He worked at Silver Falls Timber Company, but
Okay.
only for about 3 or 4 months. He was in Silverton because he had the hots for a local gal that did not reciprocate,
Sounds
and
like
moved
Gable.
back to
What a
Portland.
shame.
Right. So, and we've over the years, oh yeah, Clark Gable from Silverton. Well, no,
He was around during the
he was
Bobby the Wonder Dog thing, wasn't he?
uh prior to
Part
that.
of
That
it?
was
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I think that was around that time. Yeah, the 20s, the mid 20s
Yeah.
Was
was
that
Bobby the
Wonder
Wonder Dog.
Dog? I had a book as a kid called Weird Oregon that
Oh yeah.
detailed that story.
I have it as well.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
And
at least
everybody
four
does.
different Bobby specific books
Mhm.
that are out. The most recent one by Susan, I forgot her last name, but she's a
Elias.
Facebook friend. Yes, yeah, her. She did one illustrated by another friend of mine, Lori Webb, who's done a number of the murals in town, including the Bobby mural.
Yeah, I've
Uh,
seen that one. Yeah.
yeah, and most recently, June Drake She did that one, and the Sacred Oak Tree. She did that one as well.
Hmm.
Well,
So
it's interesting because I did the story on it as well. Like you would think, looking at the two, t so talking about like the incredible journey, aka Homeward Bound later on,
right,
you'd look at the two stories and go, oh, well, it must have been inspired by Bobby. I mean, the book, or Bobby's, I believe was in the 1930s, if I remember correctly.
20s.
20s. And obviously that his story came way before the book did, so you would thought, oh, it had to have been. No, it is purely by coincidence that these two stories
Well,
are very
actually,
similar.
there is something to that. The rumor that we had in town was that Hollywood did approach Alexander, who wrote the first book, Bobby a Great Collie, and he was trying to hold out for more bucks for the rights. And they said, "The heck with you, we'll do our own story."
Yeah.
You know,
Okay,
and
okay.
so Bobby was influencing
Well,
the
because
Hathaway Jones had a whole Ike Jones story that he was telling up and down the Rogue River that was clearly inspired by Bobby the
hmm
Wonder Dog.
yeah, yeah.
because the original book is by Sheila. I can't remember the full name, but
No, it's his last name is Alexander. I forgot his first name. It's kind of a curious connection to that. Maria and I were riding on the Hood River train up in Hood River. I think it was one of those active shooter ones, with the get the train robbers, board the train, blah blah blah. Anyway, we were sitting with this guy, and I mentioned I'm from Silverton, and he says, "Oh, we're from Albany, but you probably heard about Bobby the Wonder Dog, right?" I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, my
Once or
dad wrote the
twice.
book. This was Alexander's son that we were talking to."
Wow.
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
oh, okay. So, The Incredible Journey, a book by Sheila Burnford, was first published in 1961 and is based on the author's own pets and their interactions. But
hmm
I suppose these stories, while they may seem like, oh, they all have to be connected, I there's so much, span of time in history that, it would make sense that there's going to be multiple of these
Oh yeah,
individual. I mean, we've seen it in
exactly.
other examples before. So you could say, oh, it's, they're connected, because also it's human nature to, oh, everything's connected, Nobody can fathom the fact
Yeah.
that these exact same instances, as bizarre as they uh were separate from each other.
Oh yeah. So there's all kinds of room for yet another Bobby book.
Yeah.
I was thinking since TW and Homer were both avowed spiritualists, you could have it that Homer's ghost helped Bobby come back. So there you go. You could make a Penny Dreadful
Oh,
out of that even.
that'd be
That is
so cute. The ghost of a cartoonist and his dog.
There you go. This way, because Homer was known as he had his own dogs. His famous dog Duffy. It's one of the remaining pieces of Homer Davenport graffiti. Because Homer was known for writing on anything that had a two-dimensional surface, primarily wooden boxes and whatnot. But
what
when he was working as a engine wiper for Southern Pacific Railroad, he drew a picture of Duffy in the Staten uh, train station, in with charcoal, and this building was burning down in the late 50s, and supposedly the story goes, the fireman said, "Don't worry about the building, just cut out that dog picture and save it." So they went with a chainsaw and cut it out, and we still have it. It's in the museum,
oh wow.
historical society, and picture of Duffy, and Homer talks about him in his autobiography, of course, and how when he was in Portland, he got some extra money by renting him out to the vaudevillians, and he was did this whole act, grabbing the guy's butt and all this other stuff and swinging around, behaving like a vicious pit bull that he was, but he wasn't vicious. He was a lovey little dog, and so that was kind of interesting. And sadly, Duffy was poisoned. It doesn't say how, but Homer ends up
Mm.
burying him in the rail yard in Portland. So it's kind of a
Dang.
sad story there.
There's an Oz West connection too, isn't there? I think I read some of Oz West's recollections, and that just after the Second World War, he was writing some of them in the OHQ, and
Oh,
something about horse racing
oh,
connections.
with the Arabian horses.
Yeah, I know he was very involved in Arabian horses, but I think
Yeah,
this was supposedly this was when he was a young sprout, and
he was, and he did a lot of working in the stable boy. Did some stuff down in the Bay Area, working with some thoroughbred horses and whatnot. Um,
a family gave him a horse, if I remember correctly, and to run a race with that they had fixed, and he nearly won the race with this horse
mhm.
because he was just good like that, and they were very alarmed because they were going to be very out of pocket if he did.
Yeah,
That was the that's the story I remember. I'll have to look it
I
back up.
think that's in the Country Boy. I think that account
Yeah.
in the Country Boy, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, the
There's an Oz
Arabian
West
horse.
version.
Yeah, well, there you go. That guy was quite an impressive guy himself. You know,
Yeah,
what a governor.
complicated man.
Yeah, yeah. Um, anyway, getting back to Homer and TR, everyone knows that Homer and he became very close friends, and but it didn't start out that way. Uh, when he was still working for Hearst, Hearst loathed TR and was always doing anti-TR stuff like that, editorials, cartoons, have Homer draw cartoons and stuff. And one article that came out, I got into the Roosevelt Archives, Teddy Roosevelt Association out of South Dakota, and looked through their finding aids and found a couple of letters relating to Davenport in there. Got copies of those, of course. I think one of the coolest things I got from their site, though, was He's Good Enough for Me March, which is a musical march based on a cartoon. But that's before this. Anyway, this particular letter I find from Homer addressed to the president was Homer writing him about how I think we ought to stock Yellowstone Park with game hens so that the hunters can have something to do when they go there. Never mind the invasive species angle of this. Just, oh my God, come on, Homer. But anyway, this is a letter that he wrote. The very next day after this letter, because Homer references a colleague, or actually a senator from Montana. And the next day, a letter from Roosevelt to this Montana senator. Basically, do you remember me talking about the cartoonist Davenport and his, bird thing, blah blah blah. But if you read the San Francisco Examiner of May 31st of this year, you will see why he is a person that I could never have any dealings with whatsoever. He's a liar, and I'm going, whoa, this is just, yeah, get down on Homer. So through the miracle of newspapers.com, let's go to May 31st, San Francisco Examiner, and here's this front page article, with a cartoon by Davenport and an article by Davenport, how the White House has changed since McKinley was assassinated and TR took over. And basically, he's deriding TR for being a hunter and decorating the state dining room with the heads of his victims, and all these dead animals, and he wrote this whole rambling thing about, you can't even, he should, if he can't enjoy his dinner without the heads of his victims looking on him, he should maybe consider, relocating them to his private dining room or something along those lines. I'm going, whoa, because just a year and a half later, when Roosevelt was running for president on his own accord, Davenport did a cartoon showing Uncle Sam with his hand on TR's shoulder. TR is not caricatured with the Rough Rider hat, which he up until then had always been part of that caricaturization. And the caption was, "He's good enough for me," and supposedly that put Roosevelt over the top and made him win. Roosevelt was supposedly very grateful to that, but between that period of time, something shifted, in TR's attitude towards Homer. And so I'm trying to figure out what was that shift. So the Roosevelt archives had the daily itinerary of TR for both of his presidential terms. Like what happened every single day, month by month by month. So I grabbed that period from, May 31st, 1903 on up to 1904, and then towards the end of 1903, there's this whole flurry of meetings with Charles Warren Fairbanks, his soon to be Veep, right? So my theory, and that's all it is at this point, is that Fairbanks kind of said, "Well, Homer's not really that bad a guy. He's my cousin, and blah blah blah. Give him another break." Also, at this time, shortly after it was about 2 months after this article appeared, which, by the way, I'm convinced that Hearst, goaded Homer into writing because Homer was a hunter himself. Hearst was famously not a hunter. He was, didn't like, killing animals. He'd be kind to animals. Which seemed rather ironic, but that's what happened. So anyway, Homer leaves the employ of Hearst in August of 1903, and there's a big blurb about it in this industry journals, and Davenport leaves Hearst, going on the lecture circuit. That was when he got his contract with Major Pond and started doing lectures, and he also flipped and started doing cartoons for the Republicans. Which is kind of interesting. I'm currently have downloaded and have been going through, slogging through month by month, the Tammany Times, which is the weekly newspaper of the Tammany Hall, which of course was the Democratic machine in New York. And so that's kind of interesting. You see a little bit of that shift in there, because it mentions Davenport a couple of times, and then Hearst a couple of times. They supported Hearst at one point, but Hearst kind of stabbed him in the back, and then they came, to the point that when Hearst ran for mayor of New York in 1905, by all means, he actually won, but Tammany Hall and some of the other folks got in there and sabotaged it and stole the election, if you will, and he didn't make it. And so that's when Hearst drew then Tammany boss. He didn't. He had published, I think it was Tad, the cartoonist, of the boss Murphy in prison uniform, stripes and whatnot. Published 2 days after the election, and that's supposedly that kind of hurt. And that incident was used in Citizen Kane, if you remember the Boss Getty's incident. When Hearst first gets outed for having the affair with, Kane rather, having the affair with Susan Alexander, and so one of the lines that Boss Getty's says, "Yeah, well, if I was opposed to someone and I had a paper, I would do everything I could to make sure he lost. But I wouldn't have published a cartoon of him for his wife and children to see in prison garb,
Super mean.
Oh,
hey guys, I'm coming up against my hard deadline here pretty soon, so we should probably start wrapping things up.
Okie dokie.
I hate to pump the brakes on this conversation. This is so awesome.
No, and I think a good way to close it out is I was going to say, doing a quick look up of Homer Davenport. He died young.
Oh yeah, he's kind of one of those Jimmy Morrison flash in the pan careers, basically 20 years.
Wow.
What I'm trying to look right now. What he die from?
He died of pneumonia. I like to say Homer was the last victim of the Titanic. He was covering it. See, he went back to work
That's
for Hearst.
right. Okay.
In 1911, Hearst hired him back. He heard that he was in dire straits from his very costly divorce proceedings. Sent him a telegram that just basically said, "Daddy, come home, Hearst." So he went back to Hearst and did a couple of items with him in some of his periodicals. I got some of his latter cartoons. And then, of course, when the Titanic sunk, he was assigned to go interview the survivors and illustrate them as they came off the Carpathia. And he literally caught his death standing in the rain for 7 hours, waiting for the survivors to return. 2 weeks later, he dies of pneumonia. In his the newspaper, New York Times says, "In cult leader's home." Well, it wasn't really her home. She was a spiritualist, and Zeta was there with him, the nutrition Mazdaznan cultist. So that's probably where they got the confusion from. So yeah, he died of pneumonia.
Yeah, I was originally looking up the because you were talking about the spiritualist movement. I'm like, yeah, I'm fairly familiar with that. You know, the Fox sisters is I believe it
Hmm.
started in the mid 1800s, maybe a little earlier than that. But I thought, well, when was he alive? And it's like 19 or 1867, so just after the Civil War, and going on. I'm like, yeah, that would be about I think the height of spiritualism. Actually, no, it would be because after the Civil War, so many people died that
Hmm.
people were couldn't grip with such a large amount of loss and wanted to connect with their loved ones and stuff. And I believe that was kind of more or less the height, either the beginning or the height of the spiritualist movement. So that was kind of an interesting detail for me to look up. But yeah, we absolutely need to have you back on.
Yes.
Well, yeah,
Soon.
I have a whole talk on Oregon infidels about the Oregon free thought movement, which includes spiritualists, uh, prohibitionists, and many other different aspects of that that kind of got diluted because of the immigration for the most part. But that's a whole nother story.
Yeah,
Well,
right
yeah.
on. We can
Uh,
hornswoggle you into coming in and doing part two. That would be
I was
Absolutely.
gonna say we'll
so,
invite you back on either next month or in September. So that's gonna be really exciting for people to look forward to.
Rattle my digital cage.
Yeah, and
right on.
definitely gonna have to come back to Silverton for a cup of coffee or something.
Oh yeah, coming
I
up the first weekend of October. I mean August is Homer Davenport Days.
Oh
I
yeah.
do the cartoon contest myself, and I will also be doing a presentation at the library on Saturday, 1:30, repeats at 3:30 of the Life and Times of Homer, an hour and a half lecture.
Nice.
Excellent. I'll hopefully try to find some time to head out that way for that.
Come on down.
Yeah. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah,
This
thanks for having
episode
me.
This episode was brought to you by the Oregon Voices Network, a historical podcast network that brings you amazing shows like Welcome to Oregon, a Oregon history and lore podcast, Offbeat Oregon, and the Penny Dreadful Finn can't make up his mind on the name of the show. And that was the
Variety
cackle.
hour.
There you go. After an hour, David finally gets his answer. Uh, our website is now updated to reflect all of these wonderful shows, although apparently it's in danger, so I need to look that up.
It came
So
up just fine for me, but I noticed that Jordan and Katie weren't on it yet. But that's they're brand new.
yeah, I haven't updated yet, but I got this weird email that said, "Oh, somebody complained, and that the show's been blacklisted." I'm like,
Fishing. It sounds like a fishing gig.
Yeah, it's probably
yeah.
yeah.
It says from Wix support, but I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I should actually contact support myself and be like, I got this weird email, and I haven't had a problem yet with the website. And it's been up for so long, but
I got an email from IRS technical support saying they were going to come arrest me tomorrow.
Oh, I've gotten one of those before.
I guess I better find a replacement for you right quick then,
Yeah. Well,
huh?
check out my website, liberaluniversity.org. I bought
Yeah.
that domain as well.
Yay. Yeah, so if you want one source for all of our content, all of our content, social links like our Facebook group, page and Discord, occasional articles, a store supplied by local artists, which we're still working on, and more, check out www.oregonvoices.net. Also, if you love our work, you should seriously consider donating to our Patreon at patreon.com/Oregon Voices Network. The money goes towards all of our projects and helps us pay for things like software, assets, and more. If you are listening to the audio version of this show, you can find more of our work on YouTube at youtube.com/Oregon Voices Network. Gentlemen, where can people find you and your works?
You can find me on most social media platforms at the Spirit of PDX.
And I can be found at finn@pulp-lit.com and various localities associated with Facebook. And I just dipped my toe into Blue Sky, so there too.
Yeah, me too. Like I said, liberaluniversity.org, shellac.org, and 2020oregon.net. And I have a number of little sub pages off of all of those sites as well on specialized whatever. And of course, Liberal University Press, which would be press.liberaluniversity.org, where all my books are available.
Nice.
Yay. All right, guys.
Including the Arcadia one.
Yes. And
Okay,
so
cool.
the Arcadia one has a link to the Arcadia one. The other ones are Liberal University Press, my own imprint. And so there you go.
Cool.
Yay, that's awesome. Whew. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. From myself and the crew, later.
Ta
Bye.
ta.